You are born into a world that measures everything by the sea. It is somewhere around the year 820. You are born in a longhouse on the western coast of Norway. Your father is a farmer and a sailor, and in this world those two things are not in contradiction. Every man in your village does both. You grow food in the summer and you go to sea when the season and the opportunity align. The sea is not a metaphor here. It is the road, the highway, the only reliable way to move people and goods across a geography of mountains and fjords that makes overland travel slow and treacherous. Your people are not sea people because they love the sea. They are sea people because the sea is the only practical option. But the sea does something to a people over generations. It shapes them toward it. The skills required, navigation, boat building, the reading of weather and current and tide, become cultural heritage passed from father to child, the way other cultures pass down languages or prayers. Your grandfather built a boat. Your father built a better one. You will build one better still. You will also do things with it that the monastery on the Northumbrian coast, built on a small island called Lindisfarne, will not see coming. Nobody does. Not yet. Before you are a raider, you are a child doing chores. Animals in the morning. Fields through the afternoon. Your mother teaches you to preserve food for winter with the specific urgency of someone who has seen a winter go wrong. Your father teaches you to sail in the fjord outside your village, starting in a small boat, learning to read the water before you learn to read the weather, learning to read the weather before you learn the routes. The boat is the education, not schools. Those come much later in history and much further south. Your classroom is a wooden hull in moving water with a man who will not explain twice because on the water, there is usually not a second chance for things that go wrong. You learn to row before you can swim properly. This is intentional. Swimming is not the Viking solution to falling overboard, and the water's too cold for swimming to save you in most conditions. Not falling overboard is the solution. Seamanship is the solution. The boat stays upright because the people in it know what they are doing. By the time you are 15, you can crew a longship in any weather condition your home waters produce. You know the currents of your fjord and the 3 fjords adjacent. You can navigate at night by stars and by sea color and by the behavior of birds. You have made the coastal run north and south a dozen times carrying trade goods, furs, iron, dried fish. You are 15 and you are already more capable on water than most people who will ever live. The first raid you hear about happens to a family 2 villages north. Not a Viking raid, a raid by men from the next region over, a territorial dispute that your father explains with the matter-of-fact flatness of someone describing weather patterns. This is the world you were born into. Violence is a season, like winter. It comes, you prepare for it, you survive it, or you don't. It passes, you rebuild. What you notice, listening to your father describe the raid, is that the men who came were unprepared for resistance. They expected easy targets and found people who had anticipated them. The village to the north lost less than expected because someone had thought about the problem in advance. You file this. You are 15. You don't know yet that you are filing it, but you are. The first time you sail west, you are 17. The ship is your uncle's. A long ship, 30 meters, 16 oars on each side, shallow enough to beach directly on a coast without a harbor, fast enough to outrun most things that might want to chase it. 40 men. You are the youngest by 3 years. You are there because you are your uncle's nephew and because you are already a better sailor than half the crew, and because the crew is the kind of body that can always use another good pair of hands and another strong back. The target is a monastery on the Irish coast. You don't think of it as wrong exactly. The framework for this in your culture is not the same as the framework the monks on that coast are operating in. Monasteries are known to be wealthy. They accumulate gold and silver and manuscripts and land and labor, protected by the idea of sacred space and the expectation that what belongs to God will not be touched by practical men. Your uncle and his generation discovered that this expectation was the wealth's only real protection. The raid takes 40 minutes. The monks, those who don't run, are not harmed more than necessary. This is practical rather than compassionate. Dead monks attract more serious response than frightened ones, and the monastery's wealth can be extracted without killing anyone. You carry a chest of silver liturgical objects to the ship. You don't know what they're for. You know they're silver. On the way home, you sit in the bow and watch the Irish coast shrink behind you and feel something that you will spend a long time trying to name. Not guilt, not triumph exactly. Something more like the adjustment of a worldview. The confirmation that the world is, in fact, the way your father described it. Resources exist. The people who can take them, take them. The people who can't protect them, lose them. This is Viking ethics as you have absorbed it. Not savage. There's nothing irrational about it. Just different in its premises from the premises the monastery operates on. You will encounter the question of those different premises for the rest of your life. By your mid-20s, you have been to Ireland 4 times, England twice, and made one trip south along the Frankish coast that your uncle has talked about ever since. You are now the experienced man on the crew, not the oldest. Your uncle is still captain, but the one the younger men watch to understand how to move on a raid, how to read a defended settlement versus an undefended one, how to make the calculation in the first 60 seconds of approaching a coast about whether the opposition is serious or symbolic. This is real knowledge. Earned. The kind that saves lives, including your own. The defended settlements are the ones that have learned. England is learning. The monasteries that survived early raids have moved their wealth inland, built walls, established warning systems. The easy targets are getting harder. Your uncle adapts, smaller crews, faster movement, deeper into river systems where the large coastal defenses can't follow. The longship's shallow draft is your greatest tactical advantage. You can go where ships of war cannot follow. You participate in the establishment of a winter camp in Ireland. Not a raid, a settlement. A base to operate from through multiple seasons rather than sailing home each autumn. This is a shift that the people who study these things later will mark as significant. The transition from raiding to settling, from extraction to occupation. You find it less heroic than the early raids, but more sustainable. A settlement produces, a farm produces. You can raid and come home with what you took, or you can stay and build something that generates ongoing value. Your uncle understands both. He is more sophisticated than the warrior poet version of this life that later centuries will construct. You are 30. You have been doing this for 13 years. You are wealthy by your village's standards. You have a wife and 2 children. You have survived things that killed better men than you. And the accounting of that survival is partly skill and partly luck. And you know which part is which. Your uncle dies in England, not in combat. A fever that takes him in 3 days on the return voyage. Fast enough that you are not prepared for it when it happens. Slow enough that he has time to tell you certain things. He tells you the route south to the Mediterranean. He has been once in his youth. He tells you it is worth making before you are too old to make it. He tells you the crew is yours if you want them. You want them. You lead your first raid at 33. The command weight is different from anything in your previous experience. The men around you are men you have sailed with. Men you know as specific individuals with specific capabilities and specific limits. As a crew member, you managed your own performance. As the leader, you manage all of them. The decision about whether to push forward or pull back when a situation is ambiguous is now yours. The math of risk, how much is acceptable, what is this target worth in those terms, is now yours to calculate. You make good decisions and some bad ones, and you learn to tell the difference afterward and incorporate the lesson, and some of the bad decisions cost you men, and you carry those specifically in a way you didn't carry the casualties when they weren't your decision. The route south takes you to the Iberian coast and then through the strait into the Mediterranean. Your uncle was right, it is worth making. The Mediterranean world is older and richer and more defended than anything in the north. The trading cities are not monasteries. They have walls and soldiers and the institutional memory of 1,000 years of people trying to take what they have. But they also have goods that don't exist in the north. Silk, spices, gold in quantities that make Irish silver look modest. You trade where trading is possible and raid where it isn't. And the line between those two activities is more flexible in practice than in principle. You winter in a port on the Frankish coast. Your crew of 40 has become a crew of 60. Men joined along the route. Frankish mercenaries, a handful of Danish sailors who attached to your operation in the Orkneys, 3 Irish fighters who have complex reasons for being far from home. Your operation is no longer purely Viking. It is a Norse-led enterprise with international personnel. 300 years later, people will call these things companies. You are 51 years old and you have not raided in 7 years. The land you farm is in Normandy, ceded by the Frankish king to your father-in-law's generation, under an agreement that ended decades of conflict by giving the Norse settlers what they already had. You are now officially and legally a Frankish subject. Your children speak Frankish as their first language. Your grandchildren, when they come, will speak nothing else. The process of becoming something other than what you were born is so gradual that you cannot identify the moment it happened. You are still Norse in certain ways. The way you read a coast, the way you build things to last, the stubbornness that your wife has named and given a specific word to in Frankish. But you are also something that didn't exist when you were born, a Norman. A Norseman turned into something the Norse and the Franks made together without quite intending to. In 60 years, your grandson will invade England. He will win. The country whose monasteries you raided in your 20s will be ruled for the next several centuries by your descendants. You won't live to see it, but the chain from you to that outcome is direct and countable. You sit on your land in Normandy in the evening and watch the sun go down over a landscape that looks nothing like the fjords of your childhood. The sea is 20 miles south. You can't see it, but you can feel the direction of it, the way you have felt the direction of water for 40 years. You think about the 40 minutes in an Irish monastery when you were 17, the chest of silver, the monks who ran, whether any of them are still alive, whether the monastery rebuilt. It probably did. Institutions outlast events, usually. The silver you carried home is long spent. Traded, lost, passed on, dissolved into the general flow of metal that moves through the world. What remains is the land under your feet, the children in the house, the language your grandchildren will grow up speaking. The peculiar result of 40 years of violence and movement and calculation is this: a family in a place. Not the place you came from, not the place you intended to arrive at, the place the current took you. The sea, in the end, delivered you exactly where it always delivers people who trust it enough. Somewhere you didn't expect, somewhere you couldn't have planned, somewhere you can't imagine having missed. That's a wrap for today. If this one hit different, drop a comment and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next one.